nine, eight, seven, six, five, four, three, two, one.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Very delighted to say we have a panel with 4 of our companies that are CPG companies that are going through the Newchip Accelerator. And we have a special guest today, Kelly Spillane, and she is a small business advocate with the governor's office. And so I'm going to turn it over to everyone to give just a quick 30-second intro on themselves and their company, but we'll start with Kelly.
Great, and thank you very much. I'm delighted to be part of this and honored to be invited to join you. I am the small business advocate for the state of Texas, working in Governor Abbott's office. Before that, I worked for the Irish government for 7 years as a startup investor, which was tremendously exciting because before that, I was involved in several startups myself as an entrepreneur. So I've been on both sides of the fence. So over to the next person.
Piper, I'll let you tell us about yourself and your company.
Great, thank you. My name's Piper Cochrane. I'm the founder of the Organic Candy Factory. I own it with my daughter, who created the company when she was 5. She's now 15. And we make organic, gluten-free, gelatin-free, plant-based gummy bears.
Great. And Fredrick?
My name is Fredrick Khoury. I am the founder and president of 1934. We manufacture Central Texas' oldest barbecue sauce, created in Waco in 1934. And we also make an internationally awarded Bloody Mary mix.
Oh, thank you. And Ulrika.
Hi, my name is Ulrika Pettersson. I'm the founder of Unna Bakery. We make traditional Swedish cookies after my grandmother's recipes. We are non-GMO and kosher certified. We never use preservatives, palm oil or soy or anything like that. And you can find us in the grocery aisle at retailers like Whole Foods, The Fresh Market, Gelson's, Central Market.
Great, thank you. And then finally, Bret.
Laurie, thank you so much for having me on today. My name is Bret Kretsky. I'm the founder and CEO of Unicorn Drinks, which is a specialty beverage, really whimsical, great tasting, beautiful colored drinks, both on the food service and CPG side. That's Unicorn Drinks.
Okay, great. And really the topic of today's panel is we're going to be talking about the challenges of just having a startup CPG business, but even more specifically, what have been the challenges this year with the pandemic, and how has everyone had to perhaps pivot or navigate around those challenges? So to begin that conversation, I know Ulrika, with just a startup in general, can you tell us some of the challenges you've had with your company just as a startup?
Yeah. It's been a challenge for us to get on the shelves of the retailers as an unproven brand. As a startup, I was lucky enough to meet a great and supporting distributor and great buyers that believe that they saw the quality in the cookies, and they believe that this wins in the long run, despite our limited trade spend and slightly higher price.
Right. I mean, that's key if you can, find someone like that. Now, Bret, you have a little bit of a different story behind your product, because you do have a product that you're selling locally, I believe, but the how you're scaling is a bit different. You can tell us about your unique model and some of the challenges that, or opportunities even, that you face as you grow, and more specifically this year.
Sure. Thanks, Laurie. Yeah, we are facing a number of challenges, like any business, I think, whether the pandemic is kind of here or not. I mean, I think you have some challenges around like retailer review schedules, But more importantly, I think, right, it's all about us, understanding what we kind of do well. So we're a licensing first company. We had the opportunity to police our trademark against a really large coffee company known as Starbucks. So that set us out towards more of a licensing approach to our distribution model. Right now, we're kind of a really flexible company. While we do produce our own beverages, we want to remain flexible enough to really pop at the right moment with the right licensing partners on the food service side and the CPG side. We're also seeing just kind of obviously some disruption on the retailer level. So we're looking more towards that food service side in the licensing to open up the gate. We're also looking at the direct-to-consumer model, which actually has been really, really attractive during the pandemic. So obviously we're going to be in a position to be to take advantage of that high growth opportunity.
Okay. And now, Fredrick, your barbecue sauce, I mean, I think you're both in retail and food service, correct? So what have you seen this year different than perhaps in the past? And how are you navigating that?
Well, there's been a slowdown. We are still gaining traction retail. We're still being able to pick up specialty stores across the U.S., which is nice. Whereas anybody knows, food and beverage has slowed down because all the restaurants were shut down. The bars are still shut down. Yeah. We do have products, like I said, in specialty stores, liquor stores. Our Bloody Mary mix is sold in liquor stores. Of course, it's been impacted by the restaurants that were using it and the bars. But as long as we can still, move forward that way, as well as we do have e-commerce sites. We're selling products on Amazon. We're selling on other e-commerce platforms that provide wholesale products to stores. So that's brought in some new customers for us across the country as well. So as long as we can, our model is selling direct to consumers as well as to businesses, in that we have both those avenues available to us, we can still move forward. Not as fast as we'd like to if everything was opened up, but it hasn't shut us down.
That's good. Yeah. Having that good balance where you're, doing both is really, really kind of ideal if you can have that. Ulrika, what types of challenges have you seen? Maybe I know you're using a co-packer.
Oh yeah. So I know that my co-packer has continued production, but they had to decrease some staff so that they could keep a safe distance. So our talks with new accounts, they just ceased when the pandemic hit. They focus on their existing brands and they don't bring anything new in. I can see that this is easing up now, and I hope our new business will, come. Just 6 months delayed or something like that.
Okay.
I'm positive.
Yes. Okay. And then Piper.
Our biggest challenge, we've mostly grown and very quickly in the brick and mortar segment. So our biggest challenge when COVID hit was to get a presence on e-commerce. 90% of my business was retail, business to business. And so that challenge, I'm a little behind the game, but we're trying to make some stride in e-commerce. That's one of the biggest challenges. Operationally, we've had trouble with some warehouses and deliveries. I think that's common for everybody. And again, reaching out to a lot of the buyers that have been left, working out of home or have been laid off. But other than that, I don't think there's a big need to quit eating gummy bears.
Yeah, people are probably eating more gummy bears with stress, right?
The one nice thing is plant-based is now a big trend, and I think the world is changing towards more plant-based, and we are a plant-based gummy bear, so we have that going for us. But our goal is to get on e-commerce, make a bigger splash there.
Okay, great. And now, Kelly, from your position as a working with companies as a small business advocate, what have you seen, recently and when the pandemic broke out, and even up until now with startups or small businesses in general?
Oh, well, I'll just comment on the fact that it's great to be among CPG companies because on average, CPG was less injured by the pandemic because they could, in many cases, continue to sell to retail and supermarkets in particular, which could not keep up with the demand. And in many cases, CPG companies, food companies, I know in the Central Texas area, couldn't keep up with the demand from certain retailers. But if you're not in that position at that moment, then maybe it wasn't quite the same for you. I think you've all touched on it there. One of the bigger impacts is the realization that whatever we're doing online, we could do it better and bigger, and we need to keep focusing on that. And so big focus on upping your game online, learning more about how to do it. In some cases, companies accepting that they were going to have to learn how to do it themselves because they didn't have the spare revenue to pay people to do it. The great thing is that there's all the free training you want online on all of the big providers of e-commerce and social media marketing. So any of those big companies you care to think about have fantastic, comprehensive online training resources for free to help you be the expert that you need to be. So I'd say that's one of the bigger things. It's one of my favorite subjects too. In fact, talking to companies about upping their game and how they can do it themselves for free. And it's not just about social media marketing, it's about e-commerce. And I think you've all touched on that too. How great it is to own the whole chain, to have that direct relationship with your customer. But communicating with them is critical, and then supplying them with what they want when they want is also critical. But you can make all that margin yourself. There's a lot to be said for that. I know that it's not so simple and straightforward, like I'm saying, but I think that is a huge impact. And again, it's good to be among rather more established companies here, because I have seen a number of startups who were just close to closing that first round of funding or just close to getting that seed investor on board. And around March or April, quite a few people lost that opportunity because those investors moved sideways and retrenched and decided to hold off on that. So that was an impact I did see at that time. Pivoting is another thing. People thinking they were in one business back in February and March, and then realize, oh gosh, I have to diversify to stay with where the opportunity is. And I know I'm going to say some cliches here because we've all heard them, but we've had alcoholic drinks companies turning into hand sanitizer companies. We've had fashion companies turning into medical garment companies and PPE producers. We've had other companies turning into visor and ventilator producers when they produced something completely different. But that's where the opportunity was, and it was sudden and immediate. And those that were in a good position, I suppose, and had the money to invest in that pivot could do it and have diversified forever. So it's quite interesting to see that. I'm speaking the positive stories, of course, because I have to be honest to say most of the stories that I've been dealing with have been people in difficulty. This COVID-19 has been a massive negative impact across the board. And Fredrick mentioned bars there. The bars in Texas are shut down. That is just a tragedy. And it's just a really, really hard thing to watch happen. It's not just Texas, it's in many states, if not most states across the union, but it's really hard to watch that negative impact, and there isn't a solution, so I'll stop talking. That is a quick summary of what I've been seeing.
Yeah, no, thanks. It's definitely, I think that, as Fredrick mentioned, with just the closing down, and my background is food as well, and more specifically food service. So I definitely have seen the toll that just the shutdown of the restaurants and the bars and everything like that, and the events. I mean, Austin lost one of its hugest events. The South by Southwest, that's probably, our biggest event of the year. And so that was canceled right at the beginning of COVID. So, yeah. But you brought up some good points, Kelly, and you talked about financing and, perhaps if any of the companies, I know some have not started to raise and others perhaps, have not been raising. But for those who have, I know, Bret, if you could tell us a little bit about perhaps what you're doing in your fundraising right now, or what has changed, if anything.
Thank you, Laurie. Right, the fundraising side is right, it's capital markets and then understanding kind of the right fit for your company. So it's all about, for us, it's all about bringing kind of like leading edge health and wellness into the lemonade category, which is kind of our initial kind of jump point. So we're looking to just keep a clear vision, have a simple mission, understand what our goals are for 2021 and the rest of 2020, but also embedding kind of like a nice strategy around that fundraising. So we have some angel investors kind of committed to our company for the long term, and now we're looking into strategic investors that can really help grow our company just in terms of human assets and human capital, and then trying to bridge that gap from the angels to the strategic investors to more the institutional side. And again, our brand is all about licensing. So we're looking to kind of energize a new generation of consumers to kind of believe that there's this whimsical, healthy, clean unicorn revolution and how that can kind of extend into the beverage. So understanding like our goals and what we want, like in terms of running clean, profitable company, or with royalties around licensing.
Right.
So it's about developing those partnerships. So yeah, we think the company will do 20 to 25 million after 4 years. So we want to be profitable during the second half of 2021.
Okay.
And that's it.
Okay, great. And I know, like Piper, you're more of a traditional CPG company, and you've had to make some pivots just from your original plan. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, we had a big plan. I was raising 3 million. We have an amazing team. And we decided, once again, because of the e-commerce presence that we need to make, we pulled it back a little bit. Also, the temperature of some investors we spoke to. And we're now trying to raise 500 million with a plan to just prove ourselves, grow 3 times on e-commerce. And then in 12 months, we'll go back to the original plan of growing in brick and mortar.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And I know that, everyone is kind of been really, Fredrick, for example, you're just starting to fundraise, and you have been out there, continuing to meet and continuing to make momentum. What do you view the next 12 to 18 months to look like for scaling your business?
Well, I actually think it's going to be good. We're finally meeting the right people that are connected, and that's what we've been looking for, I guess, in any business. It's the connections, it's the people you know. And hopefully those people are going to bring in the connections with the people with the money. I self-funded my company from day one. So this is the first time we're actually looking for investors. And that would be for marketing our products to let the consumers actually know who we are, what we are. And that will drive demand for the brick and mortar stores to, in turn call us saying, hey, we now have people asking for your products, can we bring them in? And so with that, who knows how long this pandemic's going to go? Does it end in 3 months or does it end in 3 years? No one knows.
Right.
But I really think that we are on the precipice right now of 1 or 2 phone calls away from just exploding. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Great. Okay. And Ulrika, I know that you're expanding as well. Can you tell us a little bit about where you see your company going, or where you see yourself in 12 to 18 months?
Yeah, absolutely. COVID has had a pretty good impact on us. We grew, and I can see that with the right financial partner, we can grow 5 times in 2021. It is an aggressive plan, but we have momentum, and I want to go for it.
Okay, great. And I think, Bret, you've already kind of perhaps said, but anything else that you'd like to add to where you see yourself being in, 12 to 18 months from now?
Yeah, we're trying to build a community of unicorn brand lovers. So kind of just continue to create a premium lifestyle brand, leverage our CPG and kind of food service community relationships and, establish kind of a cadence around how our company really works, and then lead with transparency and innovation around our intellectual property, and then kind of just create a happy, passionate team of people where everybody kind of just enjoys working for the company.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. And, Newchip is all about, bringing companies in and really kind of just helping them navigate and scale. And as, founders and CEOs, if you had to give some advice to maybe a fellow startup who maybe is not as experienced as you, what type of advice would you give, perhaps from your learnings? Ulrika, what would you tell like a brand new CEO or a founder on any advice that you'd give?
I would make sure that there's a market for your product and that you love what you do, because you're going to work a lot.
Yeah, that is definitely true. And Piper, what advice would you give to?
Mine would be to start online, which is the complete opposite of what I did. Making a presence online. I mean, it is the future. And so right now that would be key, COVID or not.
Right. And I'm sure that there's so many companies that would never have seen this happen. So kind of having that foresight really kind of makes a difference. And then Bret, what advice would you give startups today?
I hate to say it, but I guess develop your fundraising strategy like as early as possible, especially in the climate that we're in. Maybe 15 years ago I wouldn't have said that, but after the big tech boom, I think it's just really important that all consumer practices or consumer packaged goods companies where the founder thinks that there's enterprise value, they kind of start their fundraising as early as possible and then test the market with different products, get feedback on them, look at your data, because everything is about data now. So you want to see which product kind of is really striking a chord and is worth developing more in terms of distribution. So it's easy for people to understand your product.
Yeah, no, that's good advice. That's good advice. And Fredrick, what would you tell somebody that was maybe just starting a company today? What advice would you give them?
If it's CPG and you're making a food product, it needs to taste good.
Yeah.
I mean, that's still one of the bottom lines. It can have great packaging. It can have all the certificates you want. But the long run, it's got to taste good, because that's what's going to keep the consumer coming back to it.
Right.
Other than that, it was mentioned, make sure there is a market for the product. But once you develop the product, you have to know what to do with it and where to go from there. And if you don't, I would highly suggest that you ask people. You read books or you seek out people that have done what you want to do and ask them, because it's a long road. You can take windy curves and fall off cliffs, or you can, find the person that's done what you want to do. And if they're willing to provide you information and talk to you, you can learn the straight arrow course to get there.
Yeah, no, that's so true. That's so true. And, and kind of winding things up, I'd love Kelly to hear any advice from you on what you would tell a company that's, maybe a very young company or just starting out. What pieces of advice might you give them?
Well, that's a nice moment to bring me in, because I was listening to Fredrick thinking, go man, you're so right. Ask for help. Find mentors, find those people who've plowed the road ahead of you where you can get advice from them on how to do it optimally. Maybe they'll even introduce you to people. Maybe they'll even invest in you, I think what Fredrick said is just one of the more important things. And people are often afraid to ask for help or actually think they know everything. Whereas, of course, when you're in business for any length of time at all, you realize actually you don't know an awful lot, right? So asking for help. My second favorite subject is cash flow management. So you've all talked about money, you've talked about fundraising, you've talked about the cost of growing your business, promoting your business. In a time like this, which is so uncertain, you need to mind your pennies very, very carefully and really think twice about everything you're going to spend money on and buy and write checks for. Just think, is it critical? Do I have to do it right now? Can I spend less? Can I get more credit? Talk to your stakeholders, the people that you owe money to, your landlord, your mortgage holder, your big suppliers. Talk to them about better terms, just temporarily, just to buy some more road so that you can stay alive and be sustainable. Ideally, I think that's one of the most important things to do. And again, you've all talked about it, and it's great to hear the power of online, whether it's social media marketing and communication, reaching out to your consumers, your potential consumers, to tell you who you are, to raise awareness of what you're offering and how they can get it, and then to sell directly to them. Like I said earlier, keep that margin for yourself where you can, and you can do all of that. You can become an expert for free just using that online training resources. And so I'll summarize. They would be my best pieces of advice, I think. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you everyone for sharing, just a little bit about your company and your growth plans. And I wish everybody the best of luck, and thank you so much. And again, to the people that are watching, please make sure and catch everybody's pitch, which will be airing here on our Newchip demo day. So thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you so much.